Welcome to another edition of Tech Talk with me, Kevin Kwong, on the Culture Desk at CMP, the South China Morning Post. Today we're here to look at three new releases on the smartphone market. And let's see what we have here. Now, the first one is already on the market, which is the Sony Xperia XZ-S. And then we have the Huawei P10. And I'll go much more in depth looking at each phone in a minute. And then also, this is to be released, is the LG G6, a follow-up to the last year LG G5. Now this one has not come on the market yet, and it will do so April 12. And all of these phones are not cheap. They are kind of mid-range to top-range phones. Now let's look at the Sony first. The Sony Xperia XZ-S, it's almost identical to the Xperia XZ that came out last year. Even in terms of color, the build, and even down to the bezels. You can see that it's actually quite thick on either side, which is kind of odd because this year we are more looking at mobile phones that have a much thinner, smaller bezel on the side. But I think the argument for Sony having this is because of the two speakers here. So you do have the stereo speakers on the Sony. And then we'll look at the Huawei. Now, the collaboration with Leica, lens producer, camera lens producer, is back. This one with a dual camera, and then we'll see how that really helps this model to take better pictures. In terms of build, it's very, very solid. But what I find about the Huawei is the back. I find it quite hard to touch because it's what you call a metal brushed finish, or quite fancy. They've got a fancy name. They call it the hyper diamond cut finish. And I don't know if you can hear it here. You can see that it's one of those things. I cringe when I feel the back. So I try to hold it like this, whereas the Xperia is quite smooth on the back. So that's the only thing about the Huawei that I find, to my slight dislike. But the rest is really good quality built here, top range. And then finally, the one to be released later is the LG G6. You can immediately see that in terms of the bezel, it's really kind of, let me just turn this on. So you can see that the bezel on the side are quite slim, and then you can also see that the screen is quite long. The phone is actually quite tall, and then that they've done it on purpose because apparently, first of all, you can hold this phone with one hand, and secondly, if you watch movies, it's got that cinema sort of feel to it. So that is the physical build of all the three new releases. But today we really want to focus on the camera capabilities of all these three phones. We very lucky, we actually roped in our photo editor on Culture Desk, Anthony Dixon, who's not here today. He's out covering the sevens. And what I asked him to give all three models a quick test to see which one actually takes better images. And we're only focusing on the camera taking photos rather than videos. So let's start. with the Huawei P10. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's got the dual camera setup. So basically what that means is it's got two camera sensors, one taking color images and one monochrome black and white images. And to cut out all the technical parts, all the details, which you can read in my story, which is posted with this video. What it means is basically they have one camera capturing the color, and then they have the monochrome camera which actually detects better lighting, and it's basically taking much better, clearer images when in low light condition. And then what Huawei has done is to combine the data of both cameras to create sharper, clearer images, even in what they call challenging or low light conditions. So we have an image here. You should be looking at the image that we took on our balcony here in our Taibo building, and which you can see it is extremely clear, and the color is very natural, and it's got very good balance. And there's a good dynamic range to the image as well, which means the highlights are bright and the shadows are dark. So there's a good contrast in this image. And then the next one we'll look at is the LG G6. Now, oh, by the way, the setting that we use was we basically use auto. We use auto for all the settings, and but we did maximize on the resolution, so all the images taken with high resolution. So okay, going back to the LG G6. Now, I don't know if you can see clearly. Again, you can go back to the article that comes with this particular video. You can see a tint of blue in the LG images, and the LG spots a 13 megapixel camera. This is also a dual camera phone, but it's different from what you have with the Huawei P10 in that the two phones is not black and white and color. Instead, it's basically a normal phone with the normal sort of a range of vision, basically the scale or the range is normal, but with the it's got the second camera. It's got a wide angle lens, which is like 125 degree, I think. The other one is 71. So we also we use both cameras to take pictures. So the second camera with a wide range, yes, is wide, and you can see that it's got a much broader field of view. This is the term I'm looking for. And yes, it's still clear, and there is minimal distortion in the image. So with LG. When you blow up the image, say on your computer, and then you can start seeing some flaws in that, because on the camera screen, on your phone screen, is actually fine. But if you do want to transfer the image onto the computer and have a look, basically the image becomes kind of almost like a watercolor painting. And then the next and final model is the Xperia XZS. And again, this it's slightly overexposed image, and again, when you blow the image up, it's kind of again looks like a water painting, and this is 19. This is a 19 megapixel camera, but they only have one camera lens to go with this. Sony is really well known for their cameras. And I think, and I actually have a, I've got a soft spot for Sony because I've been using it for a long time. But I think image-wise, camera-wise, I think it's kind of been outperformed by the other two. Okay. I've just showed you basically images taken during daytime. So now let's look at the images that we have for low light condition, and we'll go back to the Huawei P10. This really kind of surprised us all because the image is really good. Even in low light condition, the range of dynamics is really good. I.e., if you really look closely, you can see definition, you can see contrast, you can see basically the creases in the yoga pants, and you can actually see partly the profile of the person doing the yoga pose, who's me actually. So we actually gave this image a top mark. Now let's switch over to the LG G6. Now this one got a pretty decent range of dynamic range, and it's got a good grain structure. But again, this, compared to the Huawei, the definition is not so clear. And then if you blow the image up, then you kind of see less contrast in the image. And then lastly, the Sony Xperia. I looked at the image and my first impression was, well, great, it actually looks quite good. In terms of sharpness, I mean, the image is quite sharp, but it's really, the dynamic range is extremely low. If you look at the photo, you're just looking at a silhouette. There is no definition. Basically, you look at just a shadow. You can't see any details on the yoga pants or the arm muscle, nothing. So unfortunately, this the Sony did not perform that well in low light condition compared with the other two phones. So, but I think after doing the comparison, sure, I think Huawei, according to Anthony, our photo editor on our desk, that comes out as a winner because overall performance, daylight and in low light condition, the image is very clear. So there you go. Maybe it's got something to do with the dual camera and the Leica lenses, but not to say that the other two phones are not good. I mean, we're doing comparison, but again, I think it depends on the user as well. I mean, if you are not particularly fussy about your images, and I think all three phones actually produce good images. I mean, compared to say, mobile phones and smartphones like a couple of years ago, I think these are really good performing phones. And again, it comes with the price, of course, and I'll have to look at my cheat sheets because I'm going to give you the prices for the P10. The cheaper version is the $4,480 Hong Kong dollars, and it comes with the P10 actually has a P10 Plus version, which got water dust resistance as well, and that costs over 5,000 Hong Kong dollars. It's $5,680. For the Sony Xperia XZS, that is Hong Kong dollars $5,298. And then for the up-and-coming LG G6, it's almost $6,000 at $5,998 Hong Kong dollars. Now, before I go, other than testing the cameras, I also had a general impression and I play around with all three models, and I do find these phones are actually quite cool. Okay, with the LG, for instance, I tested out the screen. I'm going to show you the.
He has some kind of creature in
Let's
his
see.
head.
Now, this is the. Let me just pause it here. Okay, so this is just something downloaded, and you can see that the color is actually very sharp, and I quite do like this wider screen. So it is like watching a cinema movie. But what I really like about the LG G6 for the video playback is the color. It's just really good. It's fantastic. Those patches on the face sometimes you see on downloaded video or whatever, it doesn't show up in the LG, and I just find it's very pleasant to look at. And I don't know whether it's got it probably doesn't have anything to do with the camera lens, because with the LG you can do selfies with the phone, and I tell you, even if you look really rough, haven't washed your face for a long time, once you've done a selfie with the LG, it completely beautifies you. It looks like that you actually got a layer of makeup on. Not ideal for guys, I don't think, but for ladies who like to look their best, I think the LG does have a bit of magic when it comes to doing selfie images. It also comes with what they call a square camera mode. I think that's really gimmicky. It's in a grid, and you can take 4 photos, and it appears in like a 4 square grid. What do you use it for? Maybe for Instagram, but personally, I don't think I'll be using that mode. Now, with the P10, the camera, it really is good, and it has what you call a bokeh mode. Is in Japanese. Basically, what it does is I think you can see on the screen, it blurs the background, and then it has a focus. It put a focus on whatever you want to focus. So with the bokeh mode, you can tap on anything that you want to have the sharp focus on, and it blurs out the rest. And the example I've got here is pretty cool. You can see the figurine quite clearly in the foreground. With it also gives you that sense of depth. And I've got a friend telling me, to do this with a normal camera might be quite challenging for anyone who doesn't, know anything about camera shooting, but with the Huawei, they introduced this I think in the P9. With this now, with the P10, it's great. But again, my colleague did notice that the fading, the blur thing in the background, it can look a bit artificial. So it's something to look out for when you do that. But it does come with a professional mode, so you can actually use the P10 as a professional camera. And finally, with the Sony, now I was kind of intrigued what the S stand for in the name. I did some research, and I guess it might stand for slow-mo because the Sony, for this particular model, they have a slow motion mode that really, and I mean it really does slow things down to a point it looks like it is stationary, it's not moving. So I think we've got an example here to show you. It's great to play around because when you can see in a clip a balloon sort of like burst, and you can see all the confetti just sort of like flying out, and it's a great effect to have. It's great for party and for purposes that you need to use slow motion. Having said that, I mean basically the iPhone 7 I think has already got that mode. So here we are, the 3 new releases, all with the LG that you can get next week, and you can go and suss them out yourself. But the one of the most anticipated models is still on its way, and it is the Samsung S8 and the S8 Plus. That will be launched here in Hong Kong on April 26th, and then I think that model is going to be packed with goodies, especially after the Note 7 fiasco that the company had last year. So I'll be back and I'll be looking at the Samsung when I get my hands on that. So thank you very much for joining me today. Tech Talk with me, Kevin Kwong, on Culture Desk, the South China Morning Post. And again, you can read more in details all the specs of the cameras in the story that I have to go with this video. So until next time, see you all and have a great weekend. Bye.